Hi, and welcome to episode 3 of In the Doll's House.
This week, we remind ourselves of those first memories in our new lives with the baby at home.
We think back to those sleepless nights and how we managed to cope.
We talk feeding, clothing, and changing our daughters, and a little about our personal setups.
We also discuss the support that was offered to us by our friends and family, as well as from our local medical practitioners.
So, put down the work, turn up the volume and grab a brew, and come and join us once again in the Doll's House.
So last week, Dean, you were talking about a new sleep routine for your daughter, and she was sleeping in her own room, am I right? How's that going?
So we've been slowly increasing the amount of time that she's been in there for. We've not done it every night, so normally it's from around sort of like the 7-8 o'clock mark. Whenever she falls asleep, we try and get her in there for a little bit of time and see how she gets on. But she's had a bit of a cough and cold this week, so she's been a little bit fussy. So we've kept her in with us for a little bit as well. So we've done a little bit of each, but it's all about building it up, isn't it, really?
Yeah, I think you mentioned that the coughing there. I think that's actually some of the hardest things to deal with, because that's essentially going to be keeping them awake. And if they're not sleeping, it just progressively gets harder and harder for them to deal with being awake. So just like adults, I suppose. But yeah, that coughing is one of the biggest niggles. It's almost like another one was like the hiccups when you're trying to feed as well. It's like little things like that will really kind of disrupt your day.
Yeah, I mean, the coughing thing definitely does keep them awake a little bit longer, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And yeah, once they've stirred and they've woken up properly, it's going to be something that keeps them awake. But also with the cot in a room, that's obviously flat. Whereas with the next to me crib, we can put one end slightly lower, so it means that she's less flat, which stops her from coughing quite as much.
Oh, nice. I don't think we could do that.
Which, yeah, it works quite well. We put, having it at an angle does make a big difference to having it flat.
Yeah. I'm taking you mean from head to toe angle, not from left to right in case they roll out.
yeah, not from left to right, and not so that they're upside down. that wouldn't be very helpful. Yeah. Woke up with a very red face in the morning.
But really long hair.
Yeah. The only downside of having it at an angle is through the night, if she wriggles around, she can slowly slip down to the bottom end and end up in a little ball. But as long as you keep an eye on her, then she's all right. Yeah. I mean, talking about not sleeping so much, last week you were talking about a bit of sleep regression. How's that going along?
Yeah, so I think, oddly, as quickly as it comes on, we seem to be back to some kind of regular routine again. So she's been sleeping through pretty well. I think just one night this week that she sort of woke up pretty early and sort of, I think instead of sleeping with us, I think my wife went up with her for a while. So yeah, we which is... so we've beaten that, but that also makes this next bit a little bit. People might be thinking, well, what are you doing? So obviously it's been difficult this week because I've had the bloody flu. So parenting with flu is one thing, but we've also decided that we think she's gone on too long with her dummies. So we're trying as much as we can to start regulating how much she has your dummy and start to remove them. So at the moment she's got more dummies than Steve Schumacher, and that's a pretty niche joke because that's the Stoke manager, and we've got thrashed again today. But she goes to bed with 7 of them. So we've heard
seven. Where's she keep them all?
Just started around her bed. So she sounds like Maggie Simpson, and then you just hear her banging around on her bed trying to find one, and she's it's like she's doing wine sampling. She'll put one in her mouth and she'll be not happy with that. Then swap it with another one, not happy with that. And then find one. She's doing all that with her eyes shut. It's actually quite nice to watch.
Do you have all the, just out of interest, so some people use dummies and some people don't. Some kids like them, some kids don't. Our little girl does really get on with a dummy, and it helps to calm her down if she's upset and that side of things. But do you have all of the same ones, or do you have slightly different ones?
No, they're all different. I don't think all of them are hers. I think she comes back from nursery with 3 or 4 different ones. Yeah, there's some that are different shapes, but she has a preference over a couple of them. But yeah, they're all pretty different. So we've had, lots of people have done things like they'll bury their dummies in the garden and then overnight they'll swap them for sweets, so it looks like they've grown into sweets, or they'll write a letter to Santa at Christmas and then leave them Christmas night and the Santa will take them away. But we we got her to use them as currency. So we went to Smith's toy store today and got some bits and pieces and
so how much are they worth? What's the currency? What's the exchange rate on a dummy?
It's one dummy to £5 English, so it's basically like a fiver.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, it worked out quite well. So yeah, we sort of spoke to the lad. He was like, I won't put them in the bin. I was like, yeah, I don't want to let us see that. So I don't know the name of the chap. He didn't have his name on the badge, so I can't shout him out. But yeah, he was amazing. He kind of he said, all right, can you put them in this bag for us? And then sort of took it away. So yes, we got some new toys with it, and so we're left with one, just in case there's an emergency one at night. So she was asking for it in the car. We managed to shut her up by giving her a bit of the Gruffalo. So she's dealing with it all right, and I think it's taken her quite a long time to settle down. She was lying down with my wife in bed and was asking for the dummy over and over, but I think eventually she's gone to sleep. So we'll see how it goes. She is still asking for it, but it's day one, isn't it? So yeah, fingers crossed we could be a dummy free.
I mean, I've seen some proper harsh ways of getting rid of dummies. One that I saw on social media was a parent asking their child if they wanted their dummy, and then they said yeah, so they dipped it in vinegar before they gave it to them.
Oh, nice.
And then took it straight out of their mouth and chucked it on the floor, didn't want it. And did this about 3 times, and then the next time when he said, do you want your dummy, the kid just shook their head.
Oh, right.
They thought, I'm not playing this game anymore.
I'm not sure if that'll work with with our kid, because she likes she'll take you say if you've gone for a drink and you've got like a bit of lemon in your Coke, she'll ask for the lemon and suck on that, and she's always like lemon and lime. So I don't know, we might have to, I don't know, if we stick it in something like a vegetable or something, she'll go nowhere near it.
Oh yeah. I mean, to be fair though, the guy in Smith's toy store, that was really good of him to do that, because when you get a bit of out from the public, it's always a good thing, isn't it?
Yeah, I can't imagine it's happened very often. Like a set of parents come and say, I would like to pay for these toys using dummies, and thanks for that. See you later.
I mean, I was thinking as well, if one dummy's worth £5, I could take one dummy to a shop and pay for 2 dummies with it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think that's how the economy grows, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, well, I might try it. I'll give it a go this week.
Who needs Martin Lewis?
Somewhere.
Who needs Martin Lewis and his expert? So this week then we're essentially at the point where we've bought our child. We've returned home with a baby. Hopefully it's yours. And we're now kind of parenting in real life. So I think the first thing we discussed is then that the sort of the feeding program. So what was the decision that you made between you and your wife on the routine for feeding and things like that?
So to start off with, it was more feeding when our little girl wanted it. So that was kind of our routine. Whenever she was hungry, she got fed. Yeah. It involved a small amount of breastfeeding, then we moved on to bottle feeding. And obviously some people choose to breastfeed, some people choose to bottle feed. Yeah. And we went more down the bottle feeding route. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, there's advantages and disadvantages of both, but one of the best bits about bottle feeding is obviously as a dad you get to be part of the process. Yeah, 100%. A little bit more. Yeah, so that was really nice, because that's obviously a great bonding experience for you to have. I mean, our routine initially was we had, the little bottles that you can get that come with the screw-on teats. Yeah. That you can buy as like pre-made ones. Yeah. So we had a load of them either bought for us, given to us, and we bought a few as well. Yeah. And they were really helpful because they were a small amount. I think they're 70ml bottles. Yeah. I think most brands make them. So 70ml bottles. And you can have them at room temperature. And basically, as soon as you peel the foil bit off the top, you've got, an hour on it. Yeah. So, I mean, that was kind of what we did. And as far as feeding through the night, she didn't feed through the night for very long. I think we were quite lucky, really. We'd end up doing a feed sort of 11, 12 o'clock at night. Then she'd want another one at about 3 or 4. Yeah. And then the next one would be the following morning. Yeah. So I was doing the late night one. My partner was doing the one in the middle of the night,
Yeah.
and then during the paternity leave, we were sharing who was doing the one in the morning, and then obviously when I went back to work, then she was doing the one in the morning.
Right.
Yeah, so routine-wise, there wasn't really a set routine, but it kind of fell into a routine the further you got along, and the times became more consistent.
Yeah.
As the days went past, and it worked out about every 3 hours, 3 hours to 4 hours initially, that when it fell into a routine, rather, that she wanted feeding.
Yeah.
Before that, it was a bit sporadic, and you were kind of trying to work out whether she's hungry, whether it's something else, where she wants a nappy changed, whether she just wants to play with her.
Yeah.
But once you get your head around it, then you're laughing, aren't you?
Yeah, I
really,
think
suppose.
that those initial kind of when your daughter or whenever the child is crying, I think that it's that you're basically going through and sort of saying, right, okay, what's the issue? Then you have to kind of rule out certain areas. So if you've got a dirty nappy, no, so it must be something else. Are they hungry? No. Do they need winding? That sort of thing. So it's like a process of elimination, really. But 9 times out of 10, it's either poop or food, and then it'll be poop again.
Yeah, poop, food, poop.
I remember
more poop, more food.
I remember you were saying though that whilst your wife was in hospital recovering, about the concept of breastfeeding, and was she also pumping as well? So to have enough on, like, as a reserve.
So yeah, there was the pumping element as well, and but that depends how much you can get off. So it depends how much you can pump off.
Yeah.
And I think a big part of that is, as the dad in the situation, you're trying to make it so that your partner's not stressed out, your partner's not worried about things. And one of the best people in the hospital was a midwife that came in one night and basically said, you don't have to breastfeed all the time. You know, you can bottle feed as well. Yeah. And she bought us a bottle, and it took that little bit of stress away.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think we did have a breastfeeding specialist that came round to the house at one point to talk about breastfeeding, bottle feeding, and she was obviously very enthusiastic about breastfeeding, because that's what she does as a job.
Says it on the badge.
So yeah, but her enthusiasm came across as, you must do it this way. Yeah. This is how it should be done. There is no other way to do it. And the way she described it was, you should be feeding every 2 hours, and then pumping in the hour that you're not feeding. So that means you're literally either pumping or feeding on the hour every hour.
Yeah.
Which obviously it just would not be sustainable at all.
It's like cattle.
Yeah, I mean, it's just ridiculous.
Your wife to cattle.
I mean, yeah, I mean, it just wouldn't work, would it? So I think what you have to do is listen to the advice, and then sort of make your mind up on which direction you're going to go in.
Yeah.
And I think by the end of probably the first month, we were like a lot of other people, fully bottle feeding.
Yeah.
So that was the direction we went in. I mean, our little girl's got a lactose intolerance anyway, so that would have affected things in general. So we didn't find that out until a little bit down the line.
Yeah.
So yeah, it meant that we had to have obviously prescribed milk powders.
So with,
I mean, what was your experience with it all? How did you get on with? Obviously, not you personally get on with breastfeeding, but how did you get on with the breast bottle type choice?
It doesn't make my teeth taste very nice, but when you've run out of milk, it goes all right on your cornflakes.
Yeah.
So we'd always decided, we already knew that we were going to do the formula. We're going to go down the formula route for like different reasons. So yeah, we were. I think so. We were going to. My wife was going to pump to get the colostrum, that kind of really healthy first bit of like magical milk that has all the nutrients in and things like that. But yeah, we I know it's not necessarily scaremongering, but I know if we were going to go back sort of 20, 30 years, maybe my parents might be able to discuss this a bit more, but and same with yours. But I think back in the day, then formula might not have been as medically healthy as it is today. So there were concerns, are they going to get the right nutrients and things like that if they're having a 100% sort of formula based diet. But since obviously the way that it is now, then you're going to get a large majority of what you're going to get out of the breast milk anyway. So yeah, we knew that we were going to be using formula. We had the same packs as yourself, those like little pre-made things, so we had to have them as part of our overnight stuff when my wife stayed in for that sort of the 1 or 2 nights. So that was part of the pack. So you'd have yours labelled up, I suppose, and they'd go and warm some up for you, and then you'd feed them. But yeah, absolutely perfect for like you just as I say, take the top off, rip the aluminium foil, I think it was, and you're good to go. But yeah, when we got home, 100%, it was we were formula all the way. And once we froze some of the colostrum so we could I can't remember, did we defrost it? Did we just put it in with the other stuff? I can't really remember how we did it. I think we still got some in the freezer, actually. Every now and again if we're hungry. It's like a lollipop. Yeah. Oh, it's warm today, get the colostrum. So we knew that was a quick decision. I don't know if your partner or my wife, maybe, if there's that element of guilt because that's something that they should be doing, or if they feel like the child's losing out. I don't know if your partner felt that at all.
I mean, I think she did, but at the same time, I was reassuring her all the way, saying, well, actually, it doesn't matter whether you breastfeed or bottle feed. And one of the health visitors that came out, I mean, the breastfeeding lady was obviously all about the breastfeeding, but one of the health visitors that came out said, well, actually, formula's just as good. Yeah. You can get just as much nutrition out of the formula as you can out of breastfeeding. So, I mean, I think people might feel guilty about it, but I don't think there's a need to. I think it is obviously tough because if it's something that you'd set your heart on and you really wanted to do it, but then you couldn't do it, then that's obviously a different story, and you are going to feel bad about that possibly. But it's about making the right choice for you to make things manageable as well, because there's enough going on with having a new baby at home. You just need to get through the first bit, really. Yeah. I mean, the first few weeks are a big challenge, aren't they? Because everything's new and you're learning a lot as you go in, and obviously every child is going to be ever so slightly different.
Oh, yeah.
Some of them will be completely different. So you've just got to learn your child. Yeah. And as soon as you feel like you've learned like what they like, what you need to be doing, it's changed anyway. So, I think although some people might feel guilty about not breastfeeding, I don't think it's something that you should feel. I know people do, but it's you've just got to make the right decision at the right time for you, haven't you?
Yeah, exactly.
And go with it. Just be confident in your choice and go with it, I think.
Did you have, so was there a little bit from your, like, the father's point of view and your perspective, did you have an element of, well, I've essentially been on the sidelines for the last 9 months. I've not really contributed to the creation of the human. So now it's time for me to be able to step up and offer that ability to be able to feed the child, because otherwise it would be that everything's resting on your partner's shoulders and also their chest as well. But yeah. So did you ever think? Did that sort of thought cross your mind that I've been watching you go through all this process for 9 months. Now I want to be able to contribute as much as I can.
I think with me, and this might sound a little bit strange, like as soon as she arrived, it was almost like a switch went off for me, and I was like, yeah, this is my new thing. This is what I need to do. Yeah. I need to make sure I keep this little person healthy and happy. And I kind of just went into not survival mode, but you know what I mean? Like
100% know exactly what you mean.
Work mode. Yeah. Yeah. And it was like, yeah, this is it. This is what I'm doing, and this is my future now from now on, sort of thing. And you're trying to do your best with it, even though a lot of it, as much as you've read about it and people are giving you advice, you're a little bit clueless on.
Oh God, yeah.
And you just got to learn it as you go in. I mean, how was it for you? Did you have that sort of switch moment as well?
Yeah, like 100%. So it kind of, so when I'm not sure if you do the NCT classes. We had ours online. So was yours in person, face to face sort of thing?
We actually had issues trying to get to them because they weren't really doing online classes by the time our little girl arrived. Yeah. And my partner was a little bit ill during the pregnancy. Right. And it just happened to fall every time we should have been doing the classes, she'd been admitted to hospital.
Yeah.
So it ended up that we didn't do any.
Right.
So our main bit of advice from that side of things was coming from the healthcare professionals that came out to visit us afterwards.
I think
so it was a bit different.
Yeah, I think they are useful. More for so ours was again like during the L word during lockdown. So we were on Zoom every Tuesday, and like oddly, I can't really remember it being like anything completely sort of wow, like mind blowing. You know, I can't believe you've got to try and feed a human. As if well done. But what was really good was you were able to meet 5 or 6 other partners, be it remotely, like who were going through the same thing as us. And like we're able to keep in touch a little bit like that. And then actually once you've all given birth, you then email to see if you'd like to join a call with a group who are going through the same process. So we were like, yeah, 100%. It wasn't really advice, but something that came to my mind was exactly what you've just said there, where like you worry about like how you're going to cope with bringing a human into the world, what it's going to be like. It's just going to be an absolute mess with all different kind of bodily fluids all over you. And as you said, that switch just goes and you instantly it is almost like a switch. It instantly just kind of like, well, I can deal with this now that, you know, it happens. You get used to the, you know, bodily fluids being all over you or over the floor or things like that. And you literally just get used to it. Like, now I said it made it a lot easier because our daughter was, you know, healthy. She slept well. She was really good at feeding. She had a little bit of colic and things like that, but that's pretty kind of normal. And I think you'd be super lucky if you didn't have any of that. So that would make it easier, but still, that paternal kind of thing goes into you. That nature over nurture. You instantly become, well, a father, really, don't you? So yeah, that was something that kind of flipped. So yeah, definitely had that moment, 100%.
I mean, were you worried about that? Because I know from my sort of experience, before I'd had my little girl, if I was out with somebody and somebody handed me their baby, it always made me feel a little bit awkward.
Oh yeah.
And I wasn't ever quite sure. I mean, I suppose you're not unless you've had your own, like what you're doing. But I wasn't ever quite sure like how to deal with that situation.
Yeah.
But then now I've got my own. If somebody handed me their baby, I'd be much more sort of comfortable with it, I suppose. Yeah, was it the same for you?
Yeah, if somebody not just gives you a baby, like if, like say, when my niece was born.
I didn't mean like a random person in Tesco's.
Yeah, saying that, like my niece is older than my daughter, so the thing is though, what you've just asked, the only thing I can remind myself of was like years ago when I was about 10 or 11 and my friend handed over her hamster. I was like, what's that? And I sort of moved my hand out the way and I just remember this hamster smidding as it was about to hit the floor looking up at me. He was like, what are you doing? so yeah, there's definitely an element of that. So when my nieces and nephews were born, it was like something really, really fragile. But again, yeah, once it's your own, other than that sort of the picture I put on our socials the other day, you know, it is, you know, that those first couple of times you're worried, but then eventually you are really used to it. And then if you are given a child after that, yeah, you are more comfortable with it. You still, obviously, it's still somebody else's child, isn't it, at the end of the day? So it's still a little bit like worrying, but yeah, 100% I had that kind of worry. I'm definitely better with when you can sort of be daft uncle with them, you know, when you can start talking. So whether firstborn, I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing with it. But now, if say like a colleague at work brings a baby in or something, I'm like straight over to it, smelling its head. The baby's head, not the colleague's head.
Yeah, colleague. leave the baby in there. Yeah. Just bend down so I can sniff the top of your head.
It.
Yeah. So, as far as feeding goes, then, as a dad feeding, what's your take on it? So, do you have a certain way you go about feeding? Have you developed did you develop a routine for feeding, like if you were doing the feeding sort of thing for yourself?
What, feeding myself? Yeah, I'm really good at it. So yeah, when I was feeding my daughter, I definitely go mouth first. No, it's yeah. So I guess so. And you know, thinking back, I know I'm going to go through it again in 3 months' time. Like, and I definitely think it's going to be harder, because you almost picture, you paint this almost romantic picture of when, like, you were up in the middle of the night and feeding, and it was just an amazing bonding time. So we would rotate between the two of us. We didn't really have anybody on shift. It was just like, whose turn is it next? So if she was up a couple of times in the night, then so be it. But yeah, we would rotate. But I did sort of had a routine whereby I'd go through. We'd have the tummy tipping machine, and we kind of do that. We'd feed, and then obviously go through the burping process, which is kind of your regular. But I'd always be watching. We'd always have Most Haunted on the telly, so we'd have it pretty dark, and we'd watch Most Haunted. That's it. That was our thing. So we just sat there middle of the night watching the Leopard Inn in Burslem. It's like a pub in Stoke-on-Trent. It was amazing. Now, oddly, that place is burnt down because of like suspicious circumstances. But yeah, just loved like what I can remember is I was middle of the night watching Most Haunted with my daughter, sort of like sucking from the formula and then having to burp her and things like that. But yeah, I remember just hours of it.
If I did that, I would literally be covered in formula because I do not do things that make you jump.
No.
Yeah.
No, we definitely wait until like she was fully like secured, and I wouldn't have the volume too high as well. I am one of a nervous disposition, but yeah, yeah, the bottle was fully made beforehand. Mind you, you've got to shake it, haven't you? So
yeah, that's true. I mean, I suppose I had a very similar thing with the feeding process with my little girl, in that you'd have your thing that you'd put on TV.
Yeah.
One thing that I learned very quickly was make sure everything is within reaching distance.
Oh, yes.
Because the amount of times that you put everything down and you think, oh, yeah, it's just there on the table, that's not a problem. Then you sit back on the sofa.
Yeah.
And then you have to move yourself again to get to the table. And then by the time you've moved yourself, they've gone, well, you've moved now. I was in a comfortable position before. I don't think I want to drink this anymore. So I think, having everything in the within arm's reach is really important.
And also, I don't have the ab strength to sort of lean forward and get it. I have to roll me back like a turtle, put my socks on. So if I've got to try and sort of use me, I don't know, intercostal muscles, are those the thing, to try and reach for something, I couldn't do it with a 8, 9, maybe £10 baby at this point, or 2 dummies worth.
Yeah, I mean we were lucky when our little girl was born. She was 6'10", so she's quite small. Yeah. So she was quite light to carry around and stuff. Yeah. But I mean, still, when you're carrying her, you've only got one hand free, haven't you? So
it's amazing how like because I can't do anything with my left hand. Like, I don't know how I didn't drop her. But you start off by like being really fiddly and like dead hard to put the bottles together. That's definitely a thing. Yeah, I remember. Yeah, trying to get the bottles together, get the formula in, and things like that. But by you finish, you're like flicking around like Tom Cruise from Cocktail. Like you just become like more, obviously more, not what's the word, dexterous, but on one hand, without dropping your daughter.
Your dexterity improves.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, but I definitely wouldn't put any alcohol in the bottles, like Tom Cruise.
Yeah, I mean, a bit of rum, help asleep.
I mean, yeah, and throwing it around. Have you tried chucking a formula bottle in the air and catching it?
Oh no! Well, first of all, I wouldn't try in case the lid come off.
Yeah, well, I did. The lid didn't come off, but it sprays everywhere.
Right.
Literally sprays everywhere. Like it hit the ceiling.
Yeah.
So yeah, you need to be careful with throwing the bottle around.
Well, I'll tell you one thing
don't do
you do notice though is how flaming expensive formula is. It is so expensive because you go in. It's like, for a good bottle, it's like 8, maybe 9, possibly £10 for your formula. It's not like a box, is it? Like the metal can. So it's so expensive.
Yeah, that was when. That was when your first was born. Yeah. That is different now, mate. It's more expensive.
Yeah. So like the engineering of it, I like how you've got your scooper. It's never at the top, is it? It's like your protein shake one. It's always at the bloody bottom. So you have to, when you open a new one.
Yeah.
Have you ever? There's loads. When you've opened a new one, you go to fold back that foil strip, and obviously she's crying. Yeah. It's the middle of the night. Have you ever had the little tab just come off in your hand?
No.
Oh, I've had that. I don't think so. Honestly.
Oh, no. I've not been able to peel it back before. And, you end up trying to stab it with a knife just to get the thing open.
Yeah.
I've had that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But I like how you've got your scoop. Once you get your scoop on, there's like a little lip to allow you to kind of even off the.
It's well thought out, isn't it?
The ergonomics.
Anybody would think that they've been making these things for
years. Yes, maybe to make it a little bit bloody cheaper. But that kind of process was. Yeah, I thought it was so expensive. But again, it's something you improved with because you're doing it that often, you're doing it that regularly, or it becomes second nature.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose the other side of it for us is because our little girl is lactose intolerant, it means that her milk's prescribed. So that means until she's 1, all of her formula is prescribed and it's free, essentially. Sell
it again on the black market, like.
Yeah, I mean, to start off with, it was we were buying it because we didn't know she had a lactose intolerance because it didn't really come out properly until after about a month. We didn't really there wasn't anything that was very noticeable.
Right.
And then, after a month, it became a bit more noticeable because she wasn't keeping much of her milk down.
Yeah.
And then, we had a few things investigated, like reflux, which she did have as well, and a few other bits and pieces, but they decided that it was definitely an intolerance.
I think
and at that point, it's prescribed.
I think we're planning maybe to have maybe at least one episode, maybe later on, dedicated to like the medical side of things. But it's good that I say good because it must be horrible to go through, but it shows that, already you've. I think it makes it interesting to the listener really of if they're becoming a father or if they. They've been a father for years. They'll be like, "Yeah, we went through exactly the same thing." So it must be like horrible to kind of go through, but does that put you in a strong position now as a father who's kind of gone through it, and this is how you've dealt with it?
I think I suppose so. But at the same time, because of what I do for a job, it's like through my career history, I've done a lot of first aid training and things like that. So I've got a reasonable knowledge of paediatric first aid, which, I mean, with the milk situation, obviously that it didn't help that much. But with other situations that we've encountered, it has helped.
Oh, wow.
I mean, with the milk kind of side of things, I suppose what you do know is you've got. I mean, I suppose we're lucky because the NHS are really awesome. They will help you no end with whatever you need. And you've always got the option to call 111 if you're worried about anything. But also, if you phone your doctor's surgery and it's about a child that's under a year old, you can almost guarantee that you're going to have a call back really quickly or they're going to make you an appointment. And if you're really, really worried... Most hospitals have got paediatric A&E, haven't they?
Yeah.
So you can take your child down there and you're going to get them seen by a paediatrician. So as much as some things will make anybody panic, it's all about sort of staying calm in the situation.
Yeah, that's the main thing, isn't it? If you're calm. We kind of touched on it, obviously, during the actual birth process, if you can remain calm and if you've got that experience and a little bit of training to help as well, that's going to help you to kind of stay calm in that situation. If you stay calm, then your partner's calm, and then if your partner's calm, then they can deal with it as well. And it's not necessarily going to calm the infant down straight away, but it's definitely not going to. It will exacerbate it if everyone's kind of at panic station. So yeah, definitely that sort of thing.
Definitely. I mean, when we do talk about the medical side of things in a future episode, we'll give people some advice on where they can go to get more information and things like that as well, because actually there's a lot out there for anybody who wants to learn a little bit of paediatric first aid. There's loads of things that you can do to go and find out a bit more about it. So we'll talk about that when we come to our more medical-based episode.
Yeah, so stick around. That'll give you every other reason to kind of like and subscribe. And just on top of that, just if you're on our socials, so if you're on the Instagram, if you have a search for In the Doll's House Pod, then you'll come across our Instagram page where we'll keep you up to date with reels and stories from both myself and Dean and how we are living our lives with our amazing daughters. So yeah, please check it out. So if you search for In the Doll's House Pod on Instagram, and you'll be able to keep up to date with what's going on outside of the pod.
So moving on then, Chris. the next thing we were going to talk about is what it is important to have set up before you bring your daughter home from the hospital, because obviously we've gone through this now. We've each gone through it. There'll be some things that we probably disagree on important things to have set up and not set up, and things that we have used and not used. Yeah. So what was your top things for having set up ready for when you got back home?
So we'll steer clear of like the tech side of things, so the gadgets. Although we kind of talked about the formula thing, it's more like so we like my wife is so much more organised than I am. It's unreal.
Ditto. Yeah, same for me.
And I'm not entirely sure what I contribute, to the house. The odd dad joke like, I'm all right at cleaning and cooking, but it's because I've made the mess because of the cooking. But yeah, so we were when we were in the sort of flat that we're in, we'd already set aside the room for the nursery. We'd already built the cart, and the cart had one of those. I don't know if they must all come with them. It's like a sliding, wooden sort of like board that goes across it, like horizontally, that you can slide up and down. Yeah, and you put the changing mat on there. I think that the first thing I would advise is have like at the football when the doctor comes on and they have those bags. It's got everything in. Have a little caddy for your what they call it for your changing. So your nappies, your wet wipes, which you'll honestly, you should invest in wet wipes, because the amount of wet wipes you go through is unbelievable. So you got your wet wipes to hand. It's pretty much what you were saying earlier on, having everything at hand, because every now and again, and you've definitely got a story about it kicking off in relation to fluids going everywhere. But yeah, having it so close to you, if you've got it all in one little bag as well, and you can also carry that around the house with you. So you have like little pouches.
That's really helpful.
Yeah, 100%. And get like the creams. I can't remember what it's called now.
Which Metanium?
Metanium, yeah. That's lasted us. We're still in the same tube, and my daughter's 3 now. But that's so good at for sore bottoms and nappy rashes and things like that. So definitely have those creams to hand. That'll be advice number 2. If it's not that, it's the other stuff that's the white cream that's in the grey. The Sudocrem stuff. Now, obviously, you see horror stories of like toddlers wiping it up and down the tally, so you do have to really hide it, because that stuff doesn't half make a mess. But yeah, having your creams to hand as well, you go through lots of that. But just as I said, have this caddy with everything in it, and then just having like
we had a different option. We did it slightly differently to you though,
right?
So you had a caddy, we had a changing station. Mm-hmm. So we had like a fixed sort of table space that had storage underneath it.
Yeah.
And everything was kept there.
Yeah.
It did mean that when we were changing her, we would take her to a changing station to change her.
Right.
So we had we had one upstairs that was quite a fancy one, because it had a bath thing in it as well. We never used the bath part of it, but it was like a changing station. Then downstairs, we got really lucky on Marketplace. In fact, that's another good bit of advice. If you're looking to buy certain things, some things you can grab on Marketplace and you can get a really good deal for them.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be brand new, does it?
Buying them new would be dead expensive. So like downstairs, we've got like an IKEA sort of changing table thing.
Yeah.
That you just put your own changing mat on the top of, and then there's 2 shelves underneath it.
Right.
And we picked that up on Marketplace, and it was like new. So it was some grandparents that were selling it, because obviously the baby had got a lot bigger now. They didn't need it, and they'd used it a handful of times.
Right.
And we picked it up for a tenner.
Bloody hell, yeah.
I don't know how much it was to buy new. I can't imagine it being less than 50 or 60 quid.
Yeah.
So, and they even delivered it for us. They offered to bring it round, which was really nice of them.
Yeah.
But like, we did it like that. So we had a space for changing downstairs and a space for changing upstairs.
Right.
Rather than having a caddy. But what it did mean is you had to keep both areas stocked up.
Yeah.
Because if you ended up in one of them and there was like no nappies there, you'd be in a bit of a mess.
Just carrying this ticking time bomb up the stairs, like, or whatever. Don't pee, don't pee, don't pee, don't pee.
Yeah.
But I suppose that's the same as being an adult, don't you? When you run out of toilet roll, there's no toilet roll. You have to do that little kind of squat. Don't pee. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, that was how we did it. But I quite like the caddy idea.
Yeah.
I think that's a good idea.
And what that also helps with is if, like, eventually you go out for walks and nature walks and things like that, and you literally just pick it up and you can go.
Yeah.
And as I said, I just commented on my wife's organisational skills. She's so good at that sort of thing anyway. She's really thoughtful and make sure that everything's in such a good place. I can never remember where anything. Where's the bloody? It's next to you. I was like, all right, okay. If it's right
it's
in front,
in your hand.
Yeah, it's like if somebody asks me now where to find my microphone, it's about 2.5 inches from my nose. I will look everywhere except for right in front of me. So yeah, she my wife really thought about making sure that you can find everything dead quick, because again, much like the feeding thing that we were talking earlier on, like that baby changing process, like. Because usually they're not going to be calm while they're doing it as well. They're not going to be happy. They're going to be crying, and that's put you on edge anyway. So it is quite of like not a panicful sort of situation, but it's not really calm for the first couple of days. You're trying to remember where everything is. Are you going to put the nappy on like tightly? Am I hurting my daughter whilst we're going through it? So by having that caddy and by having that, I know where everything is. That kind of takes that little bit of the. Not danger out of it, but that thought process away from it.
It takes the stress out, though, doesn't it?
That's the word I'm looking for. Yeah, that's stress.
Takes the stress
it's a stressful
out
situation. Now, it's natural, isn't it? As a parent, like those cries, it's supposed to be stressful because you know there's something wrong and you can go your way to dealing with it. So it'll put you in a stressful situation. But as I said, much like your changing station, like when you say changing station, I've got like a pit stop in my head, like F1, change it and it goes out again.
I mean, it is much like that, really.
You have to wear a helmet.
Yeah. Well, sometimes you want to wear a helmet.
Oh my god!
Maybe some sort of gas mask or something along those lines.
Like later on, we'll move so from formula to solids, or and that the little bit in between. So there is a distinct difference between the stink that is created from a formula diet to a human food diet, basically, and
there really is.
Yeah, it's manageable. It's quite creamy. I wouldn't wear it on as aftershave, but it's manageable. But then when they start having like the jar food and then the solids, it is so like our kid comes up with them absolute pearlers. Now she's at a point now she can go to the toilet and it's in the loo and things like that. But you have to kind of make sure that there's nothing left behind, and even then, honestly, the stink. So yeah, get the gas mask. So yeah,
see, part of our little girl's milk intolerance, the lactose intolerance, that did make a difference to the smell.
Yeah.
And weirdly, it made them smell almost a bit like cheese.
Oh God!
But in a like poo / cheese kind of way.
Just go for some brie now, I could.
Yeah, it did put me off cheese on toast for a little while. I'll be honest.
So, other than the sort of the baby changing setups, what other kind of like areas or like items did you have around the house that just kind of made your life a little easier?
I mean, one of the things when we got home was we got a next to me. We mentioned it earlier, didn't we? Because we said that like ours had one end that goes up and down the next to me crib type thing. We got back and we got it all set up and ready and stuff, and we put her in it, and she was just minuscule in this thing. Like you could have put her sideways round, and she still didn't fill it from side to side.
Yeah.
So we very quickly went, right, we need to do something different. So we ended up using a Moses basket in the end, which we'd actually got downstairs, so that if she was going to sleep downstairs at any point during the day, that's where it would be.
Yeah.
And what we actually ended up doing was moving it upstairs and downstairs. So that was kind of her main sleeping sort of thing that she had, and that worked really well. You could rock it, so the base of it allowed you to rock it. If you had to pick her up and move her in it while she was asleep, it had got handles, so you could just pick her up and carry her upstairs if she was sleeping when you were moving upstairs in the evening.
Yeah.
It was just a really useful thing to have, and it was definitely the right step before the next to me crib, which came a little bit later. It didn't seem like very long it took her to outgrow the Moses basket, to be honest.
So what we can do is, if you can remember which model, same with the next to me bed. What we'll do is we'll put all of them in on our social, so we can other fathers can have a look at what we've used and what worked, and we can sort of not necessarily review it, but we'll put it all on our social, because we I think we're going to go down the Moses basket route this time. So before we used, I think
also you're saying not review it, which is right, because different things are good for different families, aren't they? It just kind of depends what's best for your setup, really. So,
unless we want to obviously get a sponsorship,
people some options. Well, yeah, I mean, we could get a sponsorship from Moses, I suppose. See how that goes.
Yeah. Well, as I said, we didn't have the Moses basket. We had the Nest pod things. I can't remember the name of the manufacturer we had. And I couldn't remember how much they were. And we were looking for another one the other day, and they are so expensive. They're like £100 and something. It's like 40 quid for the you can get like a changeable kind of cover for them. And essentially what that is, it's like a foam outer, say it's the shape of a teardrop, and then there's the sort of the netting in the middle, and you'd put the baby in the middle of them, and essentially that then allows you to put them on any kind of soft surface. So we had like an L-shaped sofa, so if we were there watching the telly, she'd be in there quite happily, just kind of sleeping away. And then you can I'm fairly certain this is the thing you're able to do. You can kind of pick the nest up and carry them around. So if you go from one room to another, you can then put them down on the bed maybe, because they're not going to roll over, because obviously the nest goes down as they are weighted to it. So we went down that route. But I think having the conversation with my wife the other day, I think we're going to go down the Moses basket route. So we're going to have obviously the baby's main bedroom was going to be upstairs, so we're going to need to have something downstairs that's a little bit more fixed, and we don't really have the sofa space this time around. So yeah, I'll be definitely taking a recommendation of the Moses basket. I can't remember there being an issue with the next to me bed. I think we always just kind of popped her in there, even though, as I said, definitely very diddy. I think she was
£8. I mean, we popped her in. She looks so small, so we were like, well, is she too small? Is she going to move around too much in the night and things like that? Yeah. So in the end, we just went with the Moses basket.
I think if they're wrapped up all right, I think that was the main thing. Getting it's not wrapped, like swaddled, is it? I think they call it. So swaddled up like a burrito. Probably shouldn't have put the guacamole on her head. But yeah, as long as that's nice. Thank you. So as long as that's kind of done properly, it kind of restricts them a little bit, I think.
Did you use the sleeping bags as well?
Yes. So those are the ones we've purchased a few more of them. I think looking back, we didn't have enough. So I think we only had two. It was like one that was in the wash and one that wasn't. So I think we stocked up on maybe 3 or 4 of them for the sleep bags. Yeah, definitely. I think we're starting to get the clothing now. We're starting to get the like the sleep stuff. We've gone into the attic and different cupboards around our in-laws, and got all that stuff back ready. I know it's still 3 months left, but yeah, we've definitely got those sleep suits ready.
The being prepared thing's really important, though, isn't it? I mean, my partner's an absolute legend at being prepared. She was so prepared. Yeah. I mean, I would say that we were like too prepared, almost like over prepared.
Yeah.
But I mean, it made things so much easier that everything was just ready to go. And like you say as well, like you were a bit like you couldn't find anything, and even if somebody told you exactly where it was, you can't find it. I'm very similar to that.
Yeah.
But like having a partner that's really, really organised is really helpful. But I mean, hopefully with us talking about this, it'll help some of the dads out there to get a bit more organised as well, and know to sort of ask the questions of their partner, even if they're the one that's really organised. Right. Yeah. If we're having a caddy, where does everything live, so I can get it right? Because just having everything ready, I mean, you're going through that sort of nesting process now, aren't you? Getting it all together and getting it all ready. I
love that stage, that nesting. I think I'm fairly certain that's a stage that a pregnant woman, can I say a pregnant woman will go through, where they'll hit the nesting stage, where they'll start getting the house ready, or they'll be constantly tidying the house up, or You know, as I say, getting everything ready. So that does hit. I think that is a definite kind of, again, that mental switch that comes in, just getting everything ready. So I don't think it's going to be like a drastic kind of on-off switch now, because we've been through it all and we know, and essentially we've got the equipment anyway. We've got all the stuff that was left over from our 3-year-old now. So we've got everything. We're kind of finding where we put bits and pieces just whilst we didn't need it, and then bringing that back together. We have got a new sort of pushchair pram thing. But everything else we're kind of recycling, reusing. We've also taken clothes back from that we've given to friends and family members that have had children. We've had that back, and they've been able to give us some more stuff as well. So yeah, that's another thing I'd recommend as well, is definitely don't turn down sort of free like clothing or equipment or stuff like that. You know, you're going to go through so many like sleep suits, like little jumper suits that they wear as well. You're going to go through loads of them. So if you can, I would overstack with them.
Yeah, because I mean, the other side of that is, in fact, my partner's just done one today, that if you do have too much of it and they've grown out of it, and a lot of it you do pass on to friends or relatives, don't you, so that it makes things a bit easier for them. But if you've still got an abundance left over, you can go and do the baby markets, can't you, where you can sell on a bit of your stuff.
Yeah, I think we'll probably do that this
also,
time.
if you're not wanting to, if you're not wanting to spend loads as well, then you can go to those baby markets and you can get some really good stuff. I mean, some of it's still even got the tags in.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean...
I think there's two ends to that spectrum, isn't there?
Price.
Some of them have still got the tags in, some of them have still got the stains
in.
So it's like, okay. So you've got your Moses basket, and you've got your changing station as well. So it looks like you were really kind of ready for when you brought your daughter home. You knew where everything was, for sleep, for changing, and then for feeding as well. So essentially those are the big three kind of things. I suppose like the cleaning would be the next bit. So if you maybe did you have like a bath insert or anything like that ready for do the first bathing at home?
I tell you what, that bath insert was one of the best things. Because you've obviously got your baby bath, haven't you?
Yeah.
So you can fill that up with water, and that bath insert makes such a huge difference because it supports the baby in the bath, it supports their head.
Yeah.
And I mean, you're being really careful anyway, because obviously there's still a bit of the umbilical cord attached until it's fallen off and stuff.
Yes.
And you're not quite sure how much pressure to put on when you're bathing them and things.
Yeah.
So having that bath insert did make things so much easier.
Yeah.
It was one of the best things we had. I think my partner's dad got us that, if I remember right.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was really, really useful.
So did you not bath in like the normal bath that you would sort of have I said bath?
No,
so did you have like a separate thing that you'd have like not a bucket, like hose her down in the garden, but like
so we had a baby bath that we put inside our bath, and then filled it up with a shower head.
Right. Okay.
And then we put the insert into the baby bath, because our thoughts were, if we were filling our bath up every night, that was obviously a lot of water.
Yeah. So
we'd got a reasonably sized baby bath, so we were like, well, the insert fits inside that. Because until they can sit up on their own, that insert is going to be really helpful. Yeah. And then when they can sit up on their own, having them in a normal bath isn't great. A baby bath isn't the best anyway, because it is a little bit slippy.
Right.
So we once she could sit up properly, we moved on to, I think it's called a snuggle bath, and it is a bit more like a bucket. So it's not as long, and they sit up in it, and there's a little bump in the middle of it. So their bum goes one side of it, and their feet goes the other side of this bump.
Yeah,
and it keeps them more stable.
I can't remember that one. I know we bathed. So we had the main bath, and then we'd have like a. It must be. I don't know what. It must be the same sort of thing where it's like a plastic. Not so much of a seat because they're lying down, but there's like the little bit that goes kind of that they almost sort of sit on, and then you kind of fill it up to around their sort of their feet, And then you can like pour the water through, and obviously because it's like meshed, all the water obviously goes through. So we did do it in the bath, but we so I know that obviously a little bit of waste of water, but we were a little bit concerned that our daughter she was quite dry skinned, and she you know, she has a little bit of eczema and things like that. So we knew we weren't going to be bathing her like every night. It's maybe twice a week sort of thing, and even then it wasn't for long. So yeah, we didn't have the baby bathing. We just had like that little sort of seat thing that we put them on, and I think we've got that back, so we're going to be using that again definitely. But one of our friends gave us a like a farm. It was like a pack of the shampoo and the body wash. That was really nice. One of the best sort of gifts that we got. So massive thanks to Nat for getting us for that. So yeah, we kind of like use that, and it really smells amazing. Smells like that, but it's really kind of delicate. So we knew that we couldn't be using too kind of severe kind of shampoos and things like that. But yeah, definitely having that little seat that they sort of sat in it, and then gradually taking that away and sort of sitting her up. I can't remember what we had, but we must have had something that was after that. I'm sure we did. I think my wife would be able to tell us a better story, but you know, she's always enjoyed the water actually. So that she was never that bothered.
Yeah,
by
our little girl has. I think it helps if you make it fun as well.
Yeah.
And like when they've just come home, obviously their toys isn't really a thing, is it? It's not. There's not a lot they can play with, but like imagery and things. So like little bath books that they can look at. That does keep them entertained for a little bit. And another thing that we did that it worked well for changing her, and it worked well at bath time just to make sure she was calm, because obviously to start off with, they're being put into this like slightly warm water, and it's a new experience for them, and it might sort of unsettle them a little bit. We used music to help, so we would play music when we changed her, and we play music as well when she was having a bath to start off with, and that actually worked really well. I mean, just through your phone, it didn't have to be anything fancy. It didn't have to be through like a full PA system, or anything with that like that. We didn't get a house band in or anything.
Ladies and gentlemen,
we did. We did play a little bit of music for her, and I mean, if you look on the story on our socials today on Instagram, I actually tagged some of the music that we were playing when she was first born as well. Yeah. So
we can tag them in this again today. So hopefully that'll pick up. So I think with the bathing question, with like the bathing and the bathing, I think the biggest question that is on everybody's lips is: have you had to fetch out an anomaly out of the bath?
Oh, we've not had a code brown.
Oh, yeah.
We've been really lucky. Yeah.
Yeah, we've many of the Chinese takeaway little kind of Tupperware boxes is gone into good use for that. She seems to, as soon as like, okay, she's in the bath, great stuff, and then bosh, there it is. And it's like, you ever seen like where seahorses are born, and they kind of go poof, and then just spread out like that. And there's no right or wrong way to clear it. You're gonna have to. There's definitely going to be poo on skin at some point. So we've done the kind of just washing it out and just kind of chucking it in, like like when you come home from the fairground with a goldfish in a thing. It's a bit like that, then just straight down to. But then we've also thought, right, there's too many for us to handle, so you have to kind of let the water out. But then you just saw these streaks of all these. It's like a flight, like nice. A really poorly coloured RAF troop that were all headed for the plug hole. It's like right, because then you can't use tissue paper, you can't use like bog roll, because that gets wet and then disintegrates. So you might as well just use my fingers here, and then not down the plug hole, down the toilet. There's me poking it, prodding it down.
I will say that a good pair of marigolds is always a decent investment.
Oh, well, yeah, we went down the route of the, what they call it, the because obviously with COVID we had the like the surgical gloves.
Yeah. Well, we didn't use surgical gloves very much, but also when it comes to like rinsing clothes out that are absolutely covered in crap.
Oh yeah.
Like a decent pair of marigolds, and I say this because they normally have like textured bits on the fingers.
Yeah, you have a bad grip.
So, yeah, but it really helps as well when you've like rubbed in your Vanish stain remover bar type thing.
Yeah.
You can rub over it with the gloves, and it really helps taking the stains out.
Oh, there's me using my fingernails just to scrape it out. Dirty sod.
Yeah, so you got it all wrong. Yeah, that's not what you want to be doing. Because then when you sat in bed a bit later biting your fingernails, it's just not good.
Do you smell? Is she gone again? Oh no, sorry, it's me. That's not my fingernails. So I think, although I think this pod is probably going to be a little bit longer than some of the others, but I think it's really useful if we talk about finish off this episode with some of the visits that you had. So whether it's like from friends or family members or from the health practitioners. So talk us through what it was like for yourself and your partner when you're taking your daughter home. How, what sort of visits did you have? Did you have more visits because of the lactose, or what kind of visits did you have from the NHS, but also from your friends and family at that point?
Well, you have your health visitor visit. I suppose yours was different, wasn't it? Because it was during lockdown, so you might not have had as many. So we'll get onto that bit in a bit, I suppose. But for us, we had you have someone come out after you've been at home for, I think it's 24 hours.
Yeah.
And then you've got a 10-day one, and there's various other people that come out if you've got any questions. I mean, the big thing that was really useful was that there was a number to phone, and if you're worried about anything, basically they'd send somebody out and they'd give you a bit of a hand with it. Yeah. Which was that was really good. I mean, the NHS is great for stuff like that. So really it was, I think it really helped you to feel more comfortable with what you were doing, because even though you probably weren't going to use it, you'd got a phone number to call if you needed to. It's
another safety net, isn't it? It's one of those things that you'd rather have it and not need it, or then sort of need it and not have it, sort of thing. Especially like me with my marigolds, I suppose. But yeah, it's definitely like, by having that safety net, if you're struggling, whether it is with the actual looking after the child, or your own kind of, if you've got your own concerns, you have got those numbers. There are those supports, and they are obviously factoring in the father side of things as well. And if you're struggling that changeover, and I know like postpartum is really, really big. They offer those services as well, which is it's a godsend, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's massive. Just having that, like you say, that comfort blanket there of knowing that if you need help, there's somebody there that can help you, that's got an absolute abundance of experience. And this is their life. This is what they do for their job. So they really know it inside out, and they've experienced more babies than anybody you could think of. So they've really got loads of experience of different situations with different children. So there's a good chance that if they've not experienced what you're going through, or they've not dealt with it before, there'll be somebody on their team that has. So they can always ask for other people's help at the same time. I mean, going to our visits, I think we had 3 different health visitors come out to visit us, health visitors / midwives, and we had the breastfeeding specialist come out that I'd mentioned before as well. I mean, the health visitors and the midwives were all really nice, and they came in, they did the weigh-in, they did the measuring that they needed to do, had a bit of a chat with us, asked if there was anything we needed, asked if there was anything that they wanted us to demonstrate, them to demonstrate for us. So like if you were thinking, well, I'm not sure I'm winding her right, is there a better way of doing it? They'd show you, they'd go through it and actually physically show you, which I always think is a bit better than someone trying to explain it. I'm very much a visual learner, so if I can see somebody doing it, it's it makes it much easier for me to have a go. 100%. And then afterwards as well, they'd give her back and say, you can have a go now, and if you weren't quite getting it right, they'd then show you how to adjust what you were doing to make it better, which was really good. I mean, how did you have many medical visits, like some after you came out? 'Cause with it being lockdown, I assume it's different.
Yeah, I think it was pretty much just like the same concept where we had the midwife came out the next day. I don't know how you felt, but I felt like, and I know this wasn't the case, but it was something that was in the back of us minds. Is that there, like if you're about to adopt a cat maybe, and the cat charity will come around your house to make sure that your house is set up correctly for that cat. I don't know about you, but yeah. I had a little bit of like, if this, are they going to be coming around and making sure this is a safe environment? Are they going to pick up on something that he could sort of say is something that they don't like, and he could sort of take the daughter away from you, but those sorts of things where they say, right, we're not happy with the environment that this child has grown up in. So there was a little bit of nerves there, because you felt like, I think, you're being like checked up on it then, but that's 100% not the case. They're there to exactly what you've said. They're making sure that you're happy. So I definitely remember one. I think there may well have been a second one. I think there was two. I think two people came at that point. I think one of them would have been the breastfeeding specialist. I don't know if that was something that we might have had to have requested at the time. So if we were, having problems.
I think we did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's not that we requested it. They offered it, and we thought, well, actually, yeah, it's worth finding out a bit more and listening to this a bit more. So it was something that got offered, and we were like, yeah, well, why not find out a bit more?
Yeah. Even though you knew, again, another safety blanket, you knew 100% there was no problems whatsoever with the formula. It's just that maybe almost as ridiculous as it sounds, it's almost, especially now, it's going to save you a hell of a lot of money if you're able to produce that milk like at home essentially. So maybe there was a little bit of that, so maybe we can save a bit of money on the formula, but I don't think that was the main thing. I think the bond between the parents, the mother and the daughter, is quite important as well. So yeah, I definitely remember the two visits, and everything was, it was absolutely fine. I don't know whether they'll still do the same visits if you've got a second one, or if they look at different things when, if you've got a toddler running around already. I come in and like, my daughter's feeding me, one daughter's feeding another one, that'd be quite nice. And I'm there playing on, I don't know, Red Dead. And I think that'll be, they'll be doing that. Can you put the controller down for a minute, Chris? Oh, all right. So definitely that might be different, but, I think they might look at you a bit differently because you've done it before. But again, it's different stresses for different situations. Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how those those things change.
I suppose one of the things that will be interesting from your point of view as well is, will it be very similar to your first one, or will it be a completely different experience?
Yeah, I think it's one of those ones. I think in my head, what's it called? Hoping for the best but expecting the worst. I think that's the saying.
Well, it's the best way to go, isn't it?
Yeah. So if I mentioned it previously in the pod today that you romanticize that kind of being up in the middle of the night, and I don't really feel like I was ever exceptionally tired. I am now. I know, for a fact I am. I remember like a mate of mine in Dubai, like when he found out that I told him that we were expecting, he was like, you thought you were tired before, you're going to be dad tired. That is a huge thing. So I think that's going to be an issue. As I said, we've romanticised how she slept all through, she fed dead easily, she was a little bit sick, but we could deal with it. She was such an easy child to go through, but actually she probably wasn't. It was just that you kind of just, that kind of natural switch, as you mentioned as well, just goes. So we're fully expecting this to be more complicated. It's that second child syndrome as well. So I was second child, and I reckon I was a pain. It's just how coming back. That's the best part of being like a father.
I'm sure your siblings would agree.
Well, yeah. Well, I was about to say exactly the same. Yeah. I think the first thing my sister ever said about me was that baby woke me up, and I'm like, so if I'm ever like, oh, she's getting up at the middle of the night now, my dad's like, well, there you go. Yeah, funny how things come around, innit? My sister obviously didn't do anything like that because she was perfect, but. That kind of demon second middle child that I was. So yeah, I think it's like retribution. It's coming back to haunt me. So yeah, I think that's quite nice for grandparents to have that. So, see, it's not that easy, is it? Yeah. That sort of bit. That's actually really nice, to be fair.
I mean, talking about relatives, actually. I mean, how did you do visits with lockdown going on? Were you still able to do visits at that point? Was family still able to come around and visit?
I think as long as we were careful with it. Obviously, it's a lot easier for my wife's family to come and see us because they were a little bit further away. So it was about 45 minutes. At that point, now it's literally 15-20 minutes down the road. But for my family, it was a good sort of 3-hour journey. So they definitely they definitely came down at some point. I don't think it was straight away. Because obviously with the COVID, so we had to do the Zoom chats, and then eventually when that lockdown was lifted a little bit, they stayed in a hotel, and then kind of came around.
Yeah, because 6 hours of driving.
Yeah.
To spend like maybe, well, not even an hour somewhere is. Yeah, that's a lot, isn't it?
Again,
I mean, obviously they'd want to do it, but it's a lot.
Yeah, well, once they met, they weren't that bothered about doing it again. So yeah, I can't really. As I say, it was so long ago. It's a lot easier now for visits and things like that. They can come down, but unfortunately, we haven't got the spare room anymore, so that's going to be a bit complex. So it's definitely going to be easier for families to come down to see the new arrival than it was last time. Yeah, 100%. But yeah, it was that a blessing? It almost was, because sometimes it sounds horrible, and you want to accept as much help as you can, but sometimes you just want to kind of be left alone. Am I being cruel saying that? I don't think I am. You just want to be left to your own devices.
I don't think you are. I think you've got, I suppose, like you've got a lot to work out, haven't you?
Yeah.
So you're trying to work it out, you're learning it all, and you feel like you're a mess, you feel like your house is a mess.
Yeah.
But you feel like you're surviving, you're getting through it, you're doing all right.
Yeah.
Baby's doing well, and that's the main thing. And like that becomes your priority.
Yeah.
And yeah, as long as that's going okay. But then if people are going to turn up, they've got to expect that you might be a mess, your house might be a mess. Yeah. And if they're going to come round, if they would offer to like tidy something up or just do a little bit of something for you, it's really, really appreciated.
Yeah,
I think you prefer that to a present.
Yeah, I'd order have the Uber plugged in when my mum comes round. There you go, see you in a bit. I'm just going to go down. But we only, as I say at the time, we only had like a pretty small flat, so it didn't take us long to clean. But yeah, definitely a bit of that.
Let's wrap it then. Let's wrap it up.
Yeah, so episode 3, I think, again, this one's a long one. But I really enjoyed it because once you get into it and kind of reminisce and talk about what worked for you and what kind of didn't, it's really, you get like kind of, you're almost fighting it, like we almost, Moses basket versus the pod, or changing stations versus that like kind of basket. That caddy we had. It's straight away, it's just two fathers talking, and there's so many different kind of what's the word? Like the different ways of doing things, and I can't say the word.
There is, but it's all about getting it right for you.
Yeah, exactly.
And getting it right for your partner, and getting it right for your little lady. Yeah, that's the main thing.
So once again, just kind of remind yourselves that the Instagram is available. Our socials are building as much as we can. So if you have a search on Instagram for In the Doll's House Pod, you'll find our Instagram page. Eventually, we might go on to kind of videos on the TikToks and possibly on the YouTubes. But as I say, to keep more up to date with what's going on with ourselves outside of the pod, have a search for In the Doll's House Pod on Instagram, and you'll find all the kind of the content. And we'll also start popping up some of the equipment and gear that we were using. So it'd be good to kind of show you what we were using and what worked for us. Yeah,
we'll stick it all up there, and everybody can have a bit of a look.
So again, thanks very much for spending about an hour and 15 minutes with us, and hopefully we'll see you next week in the Doll's House.
Take it easy. See you all soon.